So a couple of months ago, I made a video which many of you found interesting, and that was answering the question, what is the best way to learn a new track? Well, today we're going to follow up on that video with a topic many of you have asked for, and that is, what is the best way to learn a new car? Of course, being fast involves you learning both the car and the track, so if you've not watched the track video yet, go back and watch that first. But yeah, learning a new car is something I think you'll do less of compared with tracks. I think most people will learn more new tracks than they will new cars, but I'm well aware many people out there switch cars quite a lot. So I think if you have a bit of a process in place, it's a good thing to have. It's a massive advantage. Saves you a lot of time. It's way less daunting if you do decide, right, I'm going to go and try a new car. If you have a process, it's always better. I've been sim racing for over 8 years now, and honestly, I've never really sat down and formulated a process. I've always just sat down and got on with it. But in doing that, I have made a bit of a process for myself. So for the sake of these videos, I've bashed my brain together and really tried to break it down. How exactly do I go about learning a new car? And yeah, hopefully you guys can apply this yourselves at home. And, you know, it's not just relevant for sim racing. A lot of this does carry over to real racing as well. You know, when I've been learning to drive various race cars I've driven over the years, I've applied a lot of this into helping me get up to speed as quick as possible. Obviously in real racing, it's more important because you don't have the track time in the sim. You can just press reset, and go again. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into the video. I hope you enjoy it. Right, so for today we're on Le Mans Ultimate and we're at a track we know pretty well, Interlagos. And the most important thing for today is the car, and the car we have chosen is the Lexus GT3 car. So yeah, it actually took me a minute to find a car I'd not driven in my 8 years in sim racing, but the Lexus is one I've just never touched on any sim. So I think it's a perfect car for today's experiment. So yeah, let's get into this then. So there are many parallels between learning a new track and learning a new car. The approach is quite similar in many ways. The first thing I'm going to stress to myself, but to you guys as well, is just the approach of building up to it. You know, the last thing I want to do is go out there, drive on the limit straight away, spin crash, waste a load of time. If I don't get laps under my belt, I'm not going to learn. So you need to really rein it back to allow yourself to build up to it. And yeah, before I even turn a wheel, we need to make sure we've got a few key things. So the first most important thing I think you need is a reference lap. So yeah, we need a target lap time to aim for, and ideally we need the same conditions and setup as that target reference lap, so we can basically gauge where our driving is at in this car. Same old story, if we can reduce as many variables as possible, then we know, right, if I'm a second off, it's because I have a skill issue, basically. There's no excuse there that can get in the way. It's just me and my inputs. I'm doing something wrong. And yeah, we've made sure the server is static, so the conditions aren't going to change, which is very important. Otherwise, we really are going to be pissing in the wind. So the reference lap for today, which is courtesy of Coach Dave Delta, which is basically giving us everything for today. The reference lap is a 133.367 from Milky Bark ID 101. So that is actually Luke Whitehead, who is a pretty well-known esports driver. And as you can see, he's a Coach Dave Pro driver. So 33.3 in the Lexus ran Interlagos is pretty rapid from what I've heard. I mean, look at that. It's 1.4 seconds almost quicker than Dave Cam. That tells you everything you need to know. It's a pretty tasty lap. And I know for a fact that the conditions in this server are exactly the same. I'm on exactly the same setup as well, which is loaded in by Coach Dave Delta. So it's the qualifying setup, the aggressive version. The next thing I've made sure that I've got set up correctly is my wheelbase and pedal profiles. So it's very important that you have the correct profiles for the car you're driving. So I've got my Le Mans Ultimate profile, my wheelbase, and then for my throttle pedal, I've got my standard esports profile that I use on pretty much every car, bar a couple. And then for the brake, I've got the Le Mans Ultimate GT3 profile that I use, and that's what that profile looks like. You see the ABS telemetry effect is enabled, so I can feel the ABS on my foot as I'm going into a braking zone. In terms of overlays, these are the ones I use. So if I quickly drive out of the pit so you can see all of them. The most important one we'll have today is the lap time delta, which will be in the top right hand corner, just using the Le Mans Ultimate in-game HUD. Another very important one is the one at the bottom, which is the telemetry input overlay. So that's going to allow me to see my throttle, my brake, my steering, my gears, all my inputs live on the go. And it's just a really useful tool that to basically correlate what am I actually doing with my inputs versus what is the car doing and how does it feel. And over time, it can really teach you a lot about, right, if I do that with the brake, that's what happens. Sometimes if you can't see your inputs, it can be quite hard to gauge where you're at, especially on a sim. Another pretty important overlay for learning a new car is the tyre page. Obviously the tyre, the bit that connects the car to the road. So being able to see the temps, the wear, the pressure is very useful. Another page that is going to be useful is the fuel and virtual energy page, just to get an idea of how much fuel and virtual energy we're burning through each lap. And when you start to get into fuel saving and stuff and lift and coast, that's a very, very important page. And then also the driver aids page. So the electronics, traction control, ABS, brake bias, engine map. So being able to adjust those on the fly, very useful. And we may look at that at some point during the session. Basically, knowledge is power. If we can understand as much as possible, it's only going to help. As opposed to just driving out without any of this and being absolutely clueless and then wondering why it's not going well. I've been down that path. You don't want to do that. And yeah, of course, we've got telemetry running in the background because we've got Coach Dave Delta that will do that for us. So the last thing I need before I go on track is a goal. And as I've been told, that 33.3 is a pretty naughty lap. My goal is to get within half a second of the reference lap. Remember, I've never driven this car. I've heard that's a pretty good lap. I'd be pretty happy in a short time frame if we can get within half a second. So that is the goal. Okay, so unfortunately, Le Mans Ultimate doesn't have an active reset button like iRacing does. So we can't set an active reset point and just restart back to that same point. We are going to have to do an outlap every time, which is a bit of a ball ache, quite time consuming. But to mitigate that, I've got tyre warmers enabled, which we can do in Le Mans Ultimate. So that will save us a lot of time. If we didn't have those enabled, we'd just be doing countless outlaps and tyre preparation laps basically until we get to the peak of the tyre. This way, we do an outlap, we do 1 or 2 push laps. We've got a bit more fuel. We can do probably 4 or 5 push laps if we really want to every run. It's the best we can do. Yeah, quite a strange initial feeling I'm getting here. I can tell I've never driven the car before. Feels quite lazy on the outlap. I'm going to get the tyre page up. I just want to see where the tyres are at before we go into our first push lap. Tell you what, the force feedback is quite strong as well. I think I might have to turn that down for the next run. Typically, you do run the hypercars with more force feedback than the GT3s and Le Mans Ultimate, and I mainly drive the hypercars. Oh. Turn, come on. Okay. That was a lot of understeer. Tyres are they're all over 70 degrees, so that's a good sign. Oh, bit too deep on the brakes there. Whoa! We're going round. Fantastic start. Let's try that again. I didn't think it would be so sketchy, but it is an aggressive setup, so it's going to be on the nose. Yeah, let's go out again. Let's get a lap I'm semi-happy with on the board. Blow away some cobwebs. So yeah, I think for the majority of this session, I'm going to have the tyre page open, just so I can build a bit of an understanding with what these tyres do. How often do they cool down? How much do they heat up? What's the wear like? Is it wearing more on the rear compared to the front? Obviously, you're aiming to have a pretty even balance between the front tyres and the rear tyres. All these things build the knowledge. The more you know, the more you can adapt your driving to the car. Right, let's get a lap on the board. Oh dear, broke a bit early there. The understeer there is wild. Must be doing something wrong there. Definitely overslowed it there. It felt like that. But I'm a bit nervous now looping it, given how nervous it felt. Right, here was where I crashed. Ooh. I got to be first gear there, surely. This flat? Nope. Okay. I felt like I was underdriving there. Underdriving the entries, but let's see what the lap time's going to be. Obviously, the goal is a 33.3. A 35.5. Let's try one more. Way too early again. These GT3 brakes are way better than I think. I'm going to start shifting when the in-game lights go fully blue. I think I might be revving it out too much. We're not really improving that much on this lap, are we? 10th and a half up. This is definitely first gear. We held it in second for way too long last time. Damn it. Okay. It's going to be an improvement. I think I'm ready to look at the data now. Because it feels so different to what I'm used to and a bit odd. I just want to see, is there anything obvious I'm doing wrong? And do you know what? I'm going to try and aim for a high 34 before I delve into data. I've just had a change of mind there. So let's quickly, new tyres. I'm not going to adjust anything in the setup yet as well. That is a mistake I see people make, is they're 3 or 4 seconds off the pace and they straight away delve into the setup. I mean, we can have a quick look. I think it's probably healthy to have a look and see what we're working with. Quite a lot of front camber compared to the rear. Quite soft. Only 2 on the springs. Somewhere in the middle with the damping. And then minimal toe angles. And we are on minimum wing. It's good to get an idea. Wing can you go to? 13. That's probably why it feels so lethal. But to be just jumping straight into the setup and clicking things, and not a lot of preload as well. Again, that would lean into the fact it feels quite sketchy, but that probably results in it being fast. Obviously, the perfect combination is good driving plus good setup. But, you know, at this stage, even at this stage, when I'm less than 2 seconds off the reference lap, I know that there's a shitload of things I'm doing wrong behind the wheel. So I think with a little bit more track time, I can figure out, I can find a little bit more time. I can definitely get into a 34, I reckon, pretty quickly here. And then we'll go into the data. Another thing that iRacing has, which I wish this game had, is ghost laps. So when you're offline, being able to see the ghost lap, whether it's your own or someone else's, just to see the lines and the approach they're taking into various corners, that would be really nice. But yeah, unfortunately, Le Mans Ultimate doesn't have that feature yet. I'm sure it will one day. So yeah, a high 34 is my target here for this next run. And of course, the Delta is our best friend in understanding, right, is that quick? Is that slow? Is using that gear in that corner, is that going to work? You know, you can only go so far basing it off feel. Sometimes you just got to listen to the Delta and, you know, is it faster? Is it slower? Simple as. Right. We can definitely brake later here. Oh, I'll tell you what, maybe that could be flat, you know? Maybe that could be flat. Oh, wow. That was good. That was really good. Oh dear, is that track limit? Just don't feel comfortable at the minute. I feel like I'm going to have a shunt at any given moment. With this curb, maybe use the curb. Hold it. Okay, that felt like a better exit there. It was. A much better exit. Go on. Okay, it's not a 34, but that'll do. It's basically a 34, isn't it? We've gained half a second there by just lapping, and I'm sure I'd find a lot more if I continued lapping, but let's look at the data. And yeah, before we actually get stuck into this data, right, because lines can be quite confusing, let's have a clear plan as to what we're trying to look at within the data. You know, we're really trying to keep it to the driving fundamentals, so no matter what car you're in, having good fundamental inputs is the most important thing. That is a constant, no matter what car you drive. You know, for example, getting the correct brake pressure for the car you're driving, or making sure you trail off the brake and use the weight transfer of the car the correct way. Not over-rotating the steering wheel, being smooth on the throttle, and not being too aggressive. Then there's obviously more specific things like shift points, or, you know, do I want to coast in this car, or do I want to, as soon as I come off the brake, do I literally want to pick up the throttle immediately? Every car's a little bit different, so it's important to understand what you need to be doing in that car and then try your best to replicate that. Some cars like sailing over curbs. Some cars can't take curbs. And yeah, like all these things, the more experienced you are, the faster, in theory, you should be able to learn a new car, because you've got more data in your brain to lean on and therefore more experience, and yeah, it should come a bit more naturally to you. If you're starting from scratch and you're thrown two completely different cars, it might be quite tricky to pick them both up. Because yeah, the way you would brake, say, in a hypercar is completely different to a GT3. That is the point I'm trying to get across. Right, data. Let's load up Luke's lap as the reference. Okay, so a nice new feature of Coach Dave Delta, which actually is, I think it's pretty much brand new, is we have overlaid video, or as they're calling it, video analysis, integrated as part of the data tool. So you can see here, I can move it around everywhere as well. But if I stick it up here and then I make it bigger, this is Luke's lap. And if I played the lap from the beginning, it would play through the data, but we can basically see what he sees on his screen as well. So you can get a real sort of driver's eye on where he's placing the car, exactly how is he approaching all these different sections. Obviously, you can see that in the bird's eye track map view, but seeing it from a gameplay point of view sometimes just resonates with your brain a bit better. So that is a super... I've never seen that before, really, in a sim data tool. So I think that's pretty insane. Very useful. I've seen it in some real-life data softwares like circuit tools, but I've never seen it in sim racing before, so I think that is mega, and we will definitely use that. I'm going to make it a bit smaller for the minute, but don't need it yet. Okay, so my lap, my 35.0, as you can see down here, versus Luke's 33.3. My lap is in the coloured lines, and his lap is the yellow lines. So we've got the delta at the top, lap time delta, we've got the speed in kilometers an hour, throttle trace, brake trace, steering trace, the gears we're using, the RPM, and then the fuel. So looking at this, he did this on a later lap because he had less fuel. Maybe he did this on lap 3. So if we quickly start off with the most important thing, which is where we're losing the time. So turns 1, 2, and 3, Sector 1, basically, we're losing 4 tenths. Turn 4 and 5, a tenth and a half. Turn 6, 7, a high-speed right. Oh, my God. I just said 6, 7. Ethan, please don't allow that to make the cut.
Too bad.
Anyway, through turns 6, 7, 2 tenth loss. Turn 8, a big loss, 3 tenths. Turn 9, 1 tenth, not too bad. The hairpin, it's a big loss, 2 tenths. And then the downhill left-hander, the penultimate corner, probably about a tenth. And then the last real corner before you go up the hill. What's the time loss going to be there? That is about 2 to 3 tenths in the final corner. So it's very much a little bit everywhere. The first thing I've noticed here that's quite a lot different is the gearing. So if we go down to the gearing quickly, firstly, you can see on the blue line, I'm short shifting. So I'm shifting when the in-game LEDs go blue, but he is shifting much later. So I think my shift points are probably wrong and I'm not making the most of the engine. So when is, let's use the back straight as our reference. When is Luke shifting? About 7,100 RPM. Okay, so that's going to be my first change. I'm shifting at 6, 7. 6, 7 again, I said it again. I'm going to shift at 7, 1. The next thing that stands out on the gearing topic is I'm using different gears in some corners. So he's holding it in 5th on the long straights. So I will do that. Again, revving it out. And then he's also a gear lower in quite a few corners. So turn 4, he's 2nd, I'm 3rd. Turn 6, he's 3rd gear, and I'm 4th. This right-hander in sector 2, he's 1st gear, I'm 2nd. And then everywhere else, we're the same. But, you know, that's quite a few corners where, and he's not short shifting on the exit of turn 2 into turn 3, and I am. So basically, I just need to be using lower gears in most places. So that's another change I'm going to make. Also, he is not lifting in turn 3. He is flat through turn 3, so I can definitely do it flat. That's given me confidence. I can go and do it flat. The downhill left-hander before the last corner, he has a bit of a different approach here. So he lifts earlier all the way to then go back to power quite early and power through the corner. Whereas I lift later, not as much, and then I run into a bit of trouble on the exit. So I might not gain that much time there, but it might be a bit more consistent and I might be nicer on the tyres as well. At the minute, I'm probably giving the tyres a bit of a hard time through there. What else can I see that's obvious? Brake pressure is quite different in a few places. So in the heavy braking zones, we're the same. But in the rest of the lap, you can see I'm the red, he's the yellow. He's braking later and harder. So every braking zone, he's hitting 100%. That's what I've taken from this. So every braking zone, I need to brake late, smash the brake pedal, and his trail braking is not even that smooth. So I think Le Mans Ultimate is very different to iRacing. You don't have to be that smooth with your inputs to be fast. And I think that's where I'm going wrong. Maybe I'm being too smooth and just giving away time in that process. Usually I keep it to 3 things, but I've gone a bit overboard there. But I'm going to try and sort out in this next run my shift points, the gears I'm using, no lift turn 3, earlier lift for the penultimate corner, and maximum brake pressure every braking zone. That's the goal anyway. Let's see if we can get the lap time down well into the 34s. You know, a mid to low 34 would be a good next step before we look more into the data. So where is 7,100 RPM on this then? So the lights go blue. Just a few seconds after the lights go blue. 2nd gear for this corner. So actually, it's when my dash LEDs go blue. You guys can't see that, but so this is 3rd gear. Alright, yeah, it definitely feels a little bit less dead going up the hill. 1st gear for this one. So with lower gears, I'm going to get more engine braking. So that in conjunction with heavier braking Yeah, I should be able to really brake quite late now. An earlier lift here, and then power through the corner. Okay. And then up the hill, he was leaving it in 5th gear. Not shifting up to 6th, so we won't shift up. Maybe we'll gain some straight line speed. But yeah, let's try and get into the 34s. Maybe I need to shift up to 6th for turn 1 though. That sounded a bit mental. So he leaves it in 2nd here. Right, turn 3 is flat. Ah, there we go. We just needed more steering lock. There we go, look at that. 2nd gear, turn 4. Ooh, bit of a moment. That was a bit of a rubbish exit. 3rd gear for this one. Ooh, bit nervous. Look at the time we're gaining up the hill. The 1st gear. I'm so bad at multitasking, man. Cannot drive and talk. So I'm gaining a bit of confidence as well now with just doing more laps. Right, an early lift here. Nice, look at that. Right, late shift points. Leave it in 5th. We're gaining a little bit on the straight. It's not worth that much time, but every little helps. 34.5. Let's have a look in the data then. This might be a good opportunity to watch his lap and the video as well now, just to see if we can pick up on anything in that. Gears look much better. I should be in 6th going into turn 1. I thought that. It didn't sound right. But everywhere else looks spot on. And the shift points look good now as well. If anything, we're a little bit late. Brake pressure is better. In the second half of the lap, I'm almost at 100% for turn 6. Almost at 100% for the hairpin, but still. The last corner's pretty good. I need to be more aggressive on the brake pedal still, so I'll keep working on that. But the earlier lift for the penultimate corner looks good. And I'm flat out in turn 3, so that's good as well. Right, let's quickly make this bigger and let's watch it through. How big can we make this? That is pretty darn big. Right.
Hey, that's what she said.
Start it from the beginning. Let's just focus on a few key things. Track positioning. So all over turn 1 curb on the inside. Opens up turn 2. I think he rides the yellow sausage a little bit, but not too much. All over the exit curb here as well. And he's hugging this curb through turn 3. Okay. So he's all over the curbs everywhere. Nice and late on the brakes. I had a really bad exit here. I think I didn't... Oh, wow. Okay. He really hugs the wall on the exit at turn 4 here. Right up against that. So super aggressive with the track usage. Fully over... Okay, so he's opening up turn 6 a lot more than I am. That all looks quite similar. How much of the track is he using here? Not that much. I thought he'd be using more there. Nice and tight through this one. Short shift to 2nd. Over the exit curb. Doesn't open up the hairpin that early on, but brakes super late. This bit, I mean, this all looks fairly straightforward. I think he's just more committed than I am. Quite a lot of the inside curb at the last corner, avoids the exit curb, and then I'm guessing he's going to hug it nice and tight up the hill. Revs it out in 5th gear. Little quali line to the end of the lap for the shortest distance possible. So, okay, we can probably improve on the track usage. So let me go and try that. Yeah, I think if we keep working on what we're working on right now, we can get to a low 34. That's probably a good point to start looking into the data again, unless we get really stuck. The thing is, it's very easy just to sit there in the data, but there comes a point where you end up not doing any laps, and nothing really can replace that. So you need to almost discipline yourself from using the data too much. Right, let's use all these curves on the inside. Not the best sector 1. The better exit there. Up close to the wall. Use more of the track. Very nice. Inside curb. Yes. Bit of a sloppy exit, but we gained quite a lot on the entry there. Just by taking the tighter line. Sector 1 was a bit woeful though, so let's try that. Let's go for another lap. Oh my god, that felt like a good sector 1. No! Turn! Wow. Oh, we got track limit. But even with that mistake, we were 2/10 up sector 1. I'm going to stay out. I'm going to try that again. We have so much time in sector 1. I think if we get a good sector 1 here, we can dip into the 33s. Right. Let's try sector 1 again. Too late. Well, I've got enough fuel, so I'm going to go around again and try again. Here goes nothing. Not as good as the last time, was it? Still, 10th and a half up though. Track limits, broke too late. Damn it. I want to quickly see his braking reference for turn 1. Let's zoom in here on the data. So his braking is here. So after the 50 board, it is just halfway between the 50 board on the right and the end of the barrier. I'm really struggling with oversteer there as well. But I think I can do it. I just need more laps. Anywhere else, lap time wise, let's have a look. This is my 34.2 compared with Luke. So yeah, 3/10 sector 1. I can see it. I just need to get it right. Turns 4 and 5, 1/10. Okay. The high speed right, less than a tenth. So I'm good. I'm pretty good through there. Still not getting the brake pressure in some of these corners, so I need to sort that out. A 10th and a half in the slow speed section of sector 2. The next hairpin, a 10th. The downhill left, we're good. We're actually matching Luke there now, which is good. And then the last corner, a 10th. Let's have a look at the last corner. as an example. So I'm braking later. My trail brake is way smoother, but clearly you don't need to worry about that. And then he's just, so he's backing it up. He's earlier on the brakes, slowing it down earlier, but getting on the gas earlier as well. So slow in, fast out. And that is how he gains the time on me. Up the back straight, just with a better exit. One thing I've noticed here, on the steering angle, cranking on the lock quite a lot, and I'm not. So he's getting a lot of the turning done earlier, whereas I don't turn it as much, and then I get a snap of oversteer. So I think there's something to be said here for just rotating the steering wheel more. If we look at turn 6, the high speed right, you can see, yeah, on the entry phase, he's turning the wheel more than me. And I think that's a bit of a constant everywhere. So for the entries to corners, he is turning the wheel more. So if I'm at 20 degrees there, he's at basically 40 degrees. So let's try that as well. Let's get a good sector 1. But input-wise, let's try turning the wheel more on the entry to corners. Even if it feels unnatural, maybe it works. So remember, if we get within a 33.8, 6.7, I think that was the lap time. I've said 6.7 again. I can't believe it. Honestly, I'm not doing it on purpose. If we get a 33.8, we've hit our target. So, more steering angle on the entry to corners. Let's see what that feels like. Maybe that's too much, but that's the idea. Too much curb. It's a better exit though. Okay, I tried to flick the steering there a little bit more on the entry. Oh my god, it works! Look at the delta. That was awful. Right, let's back up the last corner, or I've run wide. Got away with the track limits there. That was a very scrappy lap, and we've managed to improve by a 10th, so let's try and tidy that up. But this increased steering lock is helping for lap time. Wow. There's another 10th and a half, almost 2 tenths. Okay. I want to get a track limit into the next lap. So if I don't release the steering angle early enough after cranking on the lock, I just get chronic understeer because I'm over scrubbing the fronts. So you gotta flick it in, but then be consciously not over scrubbing. Another pretty decent sector 1 there. Wow, lost a lot of time there, just from under driving, I think. too much curb. A little bit deep into the last corner there. Look how much time you lose with a bad exit, just because it's such a long straight. Right, let's try the little qualifying line to the start-finish line. It's worth about 100th. Okay, so that was an awful lap, but it was still a 33.9. So that just shows you how much that flicking thing to basically use the grip available from the front tyres, that's how much lap time that's worth. Let's quickly compare that in the data. You know, this is not a dig at Luke's driving. This is just Luke being able to maximize the physics of Le Mans Ultimate. So you can see, where are we now? We're third in the leaderboard, almost a second quicker than Dave Cam. But it was a 3.67. I knew it was. So we're still 0.6 off. So I need to find just over a tenth to be within my target here. That is a mental way to drive. Let's quickly zoom out and see the whole lap here. So I'm still not doing it as well as Luke. See, his steering input is very, very smooth compared to me. So he's definitely mastered that way of driving, whereas I'm still doing it very poorly. So I'm not cranking on the lock early enough. So even in this phase of the braking zone, he's got 25 degrees of steering angle. So even, let me just make this bigger. Even at this phase here, he's got a fair amount of steering angle on, and I've not. That's why he does it so early on, is so he can release it in time so he doesn't start understeering. I think that's what I was doing at one point. I was just cranking on the lock for the whole corner, but eventually I ran out of grip. I've gone back to my bad habits of not braking hard enough in Sector 2. Just feels so unnatural to slam the brakes into some of these corners. You know, I'm only approaching this hairpin at 160 kilometers an hour. So and I'm on a curb as well, so I don't feel like I need to slam the brake, but clearly it works. Horrific last corner for me. So we're really strong in Sector 1 now, though. Even on that one, we're less than a tenth off. We really underdrove turn 4 on that lap. If we have a quick look here. Brake too early, which absolutely kills the minimums. Look how much time I lose on the entry, which is where all the lap time is for me here. We get to full power earlier than Luke, but we just lose too much. So we need to make sure... Where is his braking reference there? Let's have a quick look. I'm braking at that pavement on the right. Luke is braking just after it. So I need to brake just after that pavement on the right. Apart from that, things are looking pretty good. Sector 2 was very messy. So I think it's just a case of go back out. We'll start cranking on the lock earlier. See the hairpin as well. On the approach, just turning really, really early. Getting the fronts to bite. And then when they start turning, when you've killed the speed off, that's when you can release the steering lock. We'll go back out there. We'll crank on the steering even earlier.
Locking enabled.
Try and drive it in a smoother way and tidy things up. And see if we can get within our target. Now, it's worth saying as well, obviously we're using Luke's reference quite heavily today. You know, I'm treating it as gospel because I know he is one of the quickest in the GT3s in Le Mans Ultimate. So I want to be doing what he's doing. Or I want to be as close to his inputs as I can be. I'm never going to be perfect. We're never going to be one-to-one. I will have my own style, and as will Luke. But sometimes if the reference lap you've got isn't a great one, you know, you need to take certain things with a pinch of salt, because there's a likelihood you could be doing things better than the reference lap. And another thing to consider as well is, you know, we're hot lapping here today. Would we want to be driving like this every lap in a race? Maybe we would, but it's just another thing to consider. So there's all these variables. But yeah, sim racing sometimes doesn't always reward natural driving, realistic driving. So I would have never have known that if I didn't see it in the data. Let's try and have a tidier sector 1. Turn. Solid sector 1. We'll brake just after the pavement on the right here. Held on to the brake too long there. Look at that. There we go. That's a much better exit. That is going to be a 33.7. There we go. So that is within 4/10 of Luke's lap. We had a pretty ropey sector 1. Turn 4 was awful because we overslowed it again. We broke at the right point, but we just held on. It's a bird. It's a shadow of a bird. What the hell is that? I didn't know they had that in this game. I thought I saw that during one of my hot laps. I thought I was going mad. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, turn 4, broke at the right point, just overslowed it. I was too scared to come off the brake. So there's a lot of lap time there. In fact, why are we guessing? Let's just quickly look at the data. Almost within half a tenth in sector 1. Then turn 4, we literally lose 2/10, almost 2/10. And it's all minimum speed. Just for, you can see me hanging onto the brake pedal here and Luke coming off. So even though I get to power earlier, I've killed the minimum speed, and that's it. Sector 2 wasn't that clean, but the high speed right turn 6 was good. It was okay. We only lost, what, half a tenth? The first tight right-hander, good. The next left, we lost half a tenth. The next hairpin, the right-hander, was very good. The downhill left was pretty good. The last corner was spot on as well. That was a good last corner. We actually matched Luke. Have a look at that. Broke at the same point. He is earlier to power, but still very close. So, yeah, the data looks much more in line with what Luke's doing. The lap time reflects that. So we've gained a fair amount today just from trying to copy Luke's inputs. It's never going to be spot on, as I said earlier, but you can see my steering trace starting to look a little bit more like Luke. I'm turning the wheel earlier to engage the front tyres, and it's clearly rewarding me with lap time. So, and yeah, if I wanted to gain more lap time, I think it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? I just need to do more laps. That's it. Throw hours at it, trying to build my understanding, look at the data, look at the video, and just rinse and repeat. And over time, if I sat here for 4 hours, I guarantee I could get very close to that lap time. So that is sim racing for you. And that is why at the top level, it is a little bit of a sweat fest. And yeah, I mean, a pretty obvious point, but just because I've got up to speed, or roughly up to speed, in the Lexus in Le Mans Ultimate does not mean I'm up to speed in the Lexus in, say, iRacing. So yeah, on that topic, if you guys would like to see a video where I show you my approach on learning a new sim, let me know down in the comments below. Final bit of advice, make notes. So if you do find out any quirks about a given car, it likes low TC, or the brake bias is really good at this number, or you can take lots of curb in this car, or you need to crank on the steering lock more in this car than this car. If you have notes, when you go away from this car for a bit and when you come back, you can just read your notes and you'll be back where you were before. At least that's how my brain works. That's how I've done it over the years. You know, stuff like shift points, and it can be quite overwhelming to store it all in your head. If you have it somewhere in your notes, it's way better.